It's the midterms, the most expensively campaigned midterms in history. But do the Democrats or the Republicans have any new ideas, or are they just reaching back into the dead old past? Hello there, you 6 million awakening wonders. Thanks for joining me on this voyage to truth, awakening, and enlightenment. Join us every day on Rumble. Our videos are up there in full, for free, for you every day, where we use freedom of speech to bring people together rather than driving people apart. Now, let's get on with today's video. The Republicans are reliant on Trump and maybe grooming DeSantis as Trump Mark II. The Democrats are reaching back into yesteryear to revive Obama, because the cadaverous Biden is little more than a Nosferatu, ghosting from room to room, can't find his way off a stage, can't read a line off a page. Is American democracy dead, and what can be snatched from its ashes? Obviously, the midterms has been vivified by massive cultural conflict, the Democrats spending lots of money on abortion-oriented campaign material, and the Republicans are spending a lot of money focusing on inflation, and the campaign has become yet more libidinized by Trump's announcement that he has an announcement. This is a guy who announces that he's got an announcement. I've got an announcement. There's going to be an announcement. What will the announcement be?
And I would say, in the strongest way, it's a country-saving election.
Both sides are amplifying the significance. Joe Biden saying that this is an election to save democracy, which means that democracy is over already, if you think about it, because, you know, if you have to vote for the Democrats in order to save democracy, then you have no choice anyway. Trump saying that it's the most significant election for generations. What are both sides offering you, really? In a sense, I think what they're trying to do is libidinize and vivify an electorate that is probably somewhat weary. Many among us have started to recognize that congressional politics is ultimately an exercise in sustaining corporate power. In our recent conversation with Jeffrey Sachs, that's available on Rumble, he explained how the trajectory of the current Ukraine conflict encompasses various administrations. Ergo, one agenda is being pursued across the different denominations. When we spoke to Tulsi Gabbard on the show, conversation in full, available on Rumble, she explained that the Democrats are a party of warmongers. I was brought up to think that the centre-left were the goodies and that the right-wing party were the baddies. I'm by no means a Republican or a right-wing person, but I do believe in individual freedom. I believe that the opposite of what both parties is telling you is true, that the differences between them are not significant enough, that there is no viable, credible political alternative being offered, not only in American politics, but in global politics. That is why we're seeing uprisings all over the world. New Zealand farmers, Dutch farmers, Sri Lankan farmers, because people are beginning to recognize that centralized globalist edicts are what determine domestic politics. And America is no different. I believe that's why what we call hot button topics are promoted to the forefront of your consciousness, so you can't see ultimately political life is strategically run in accordance with the will of powerful corporate interests. But nevertheless, let's enjoy the propaganda of these performer politicians. Barack Obama from the Democrat Party trying to remind you of a time when they were fronted up by a man with elan and style and a degree of grace, even if he was droning with the best of them. Or the Republican Party using a unique polemicist, persuader and orator to make their party seem like it can present meaningful change. And relatively new on the block, Ron DeSantis, who's made a campaign film that looks like it's by Ingmar Bergman. Beautiful, potent, it's like a Calvin Klein commercial.
God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a protector.
If you watch the stream, we're going to watch that campaign video in full and give it some real scrutiny and analysis. So join us there on Rumble.
I'm going to be making a very big announcement on Tuesday, November 15th at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida.
They're cheering his house. I love that place. Trump coined a new nickname for his 2024 rival Ron DeSantis, branding him Ron DeSanctimonious. The former president usually reserves belittling monikers for politicians he is formally running against. Past ones have included Crooked Hillary, good nickname, Low Energy Jeb Bush, brilliant, so debilitating as a nickname, Lion Ted Cruz, Little Marco Rubio, and Sleepy Joe Biden. Donald Trump understands media, he understands narrative, and he certainly understands hype. But But Ron DeSantis does pose a credible threat for the leadership of the Republican Party because, in a sense, this is a post-Trump Republican leader who might be able to galvanize part of the Trump base while still appealing to conventional Republican voters. And the Democrat Party, it seems all they really have to offer you is the past.
Democrats are doing so badly running our country, and people want our tremendous success of no inflation, energy independence, military victory. Remember, I defeated ISIS.
No, I do remember that. I remember when you individually defeated ISIS. You have to admire the pluck. You have to admire the ability to communicate. But what you have to acknowledge also, I believe, is we're looking at two parties that are running out of ideas, that have been hemmed in by lobbyist money and corporate alliance. The revolving doors are spinning so fast that you can't distinguish meaningfully between these two parties anymore, except for in a few vital areas. Areas of traditionalism versus progressivism, and it's certain aspects of cultural difference. Right to bear arms, pro-choice, pro-life. But whilst these issues are extremely important to some people, broadly speaking, the most powerful interests in the world will be able to continue with their agenda unimpeded, i.e. the agenda that leads to the war in Ukraine, potentially. Have a look at the interview with Jeffrey Sachs. The ability for the financial industry to avoid consequences for the recklessness, the consequences of which are still being felt to this day. These are the issues around which we have to unify. These are the issues around which there is no meaningful alternative being offered. If you disagree, let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments.
Sir, wait, come on.
Barack Obama has been wheeled out from yesteryear because obviously the current incumbent is incapable of providing any razzmatazz. The problem is that during Obama's presidency, geopolitical conflicts that we're living with now were inaugurated. Former President Barack Obama dealt with a heckler in Michigan on Saturday. Obama, speaking in front of a packed house in Detroit, expressed despair at the ongoing radicalization of US politics. They're radicalizing it. Don't blame ordinary people for that. Where's the rhetoric coming from?
You overthrew Ukraine in 2014!
That's a really specific and brilliant heckle, particularly if you watch our interview with Jeffrey Sachs. It's up on the channel now. You'll see how events in 2009 and events in 2014 and basically post-Cold War politics led to this moment. That is, of course, not to underwrite, applaud or sanction the actions of Putin. That is to say that when you have a proxy war between America and Russia, there's going to be a degree of complexity beyond America are a good country.
You overthrew the legitimate Ukraine in 2014!
Other people, no, Obama, please, Obama, come on. We got to put up with Biden, who if he was doing this speech, we wouldn't even know where he'd wander. Oh, which way is it? What do you mean, Ukraine? What is, have I got an energy company there? Hunter!
Tell us about your plans for nuclear war with Russia!
I will bet you that is not a right-wing activist that's saying those things. That I can sort of tell that that's not a Trump voter, can't you? That's people attacking the left from the left, attacking the left from a perspective of we need radical, meaningful change. We need, if we're going to have government at all, a government that supports people in meaningful ways without impeding their individual liberty and freedom, that accepts that there is incredible cultural diversity from orthodox traditional values to what are regarded as progressive values. We need to be able to tell the truth when it comes to explaining complex, complicated narratives about war, not reductive simplicity. We can't use things like a pandemic to enhance government power, to increase corporate profits, to impede the liberty of individuals, and then expect at the midterms for people to trot out and vote for the Democrat Party, and in my opinion, the Republican Party either, because you deserve better. You deserve genuine alternatives. You deserve real control in your actual lives, over your community, over your resources. You're being offered performances instead of real politics.
Right now, I'm talking. You'll have a chance to talk sometime soon. We don't have to interrupt each other. You don't have to shout each other down. It's not a good way to do business. It's that you wouldn't do that at a workplace.
Also, what wouldn't be a good thing to do in a workplace will be to stoke tensions throughout Europe in order to meet an energy agenda and then only report on one side of the conflict.
You wouldn't just interrupt people in the middle of a conversation. It's not how we do things. And this is part of the point that I want to make. Just basic civility and courtesy works.
But was Obama's record on war when in office? Ought he be heckled on that basis? For the most part, the Obama administration continued the escalation of American military action and lessened the use of diplomacy and foreign policy. There was a record $200 billion in arms deals, more than any other president. Okay, so it's a record. The proliferation of drone strikes as a regular military tactic and the antagonization of China with a missile defense system. This is what the liberal left have mastered. Authoritarianism in the guise of politeness and kindness. But when you look at the regulations, when you look at the legislations, when you look at the droning and the war, politeness goes out the window.
It's not how we do things.
And what about antagonism of Russia during that time? The United States also began to pursue an aggressive approach to Russia after violent conflicts in Ukraine. On December the 18th, 2014, Obama signed the Ukraine Freedom Support Act, which it's called the Ukraine Freedom Support Act, which allowed the US to impose economic sanctions on Russia and gave Ukraine up to $350 million in military aid to resist pro-Russian rebels. So they interfered at that time in a domestic Ukrainian issue by giving them $350 million in military aid, we're calling that, in the Ukraine. What if we call it the Ukraine Freedom Support Act rather than the Antagonize Russia Act? Aside from the domestic damage resulting from reduced trade, the restrictions had the potential to further injure the Russian economy, which had been struggling with a devalued currency and falling oil prices. Despite his cool demeanour, Obama carried on the tired Bush-era foreign policy of warmongering, doing nothing to repair the damage to America's reputation suffered in early 21st century. So, in a way, they're right. This is the most important midterm elections in history. This is significant for democracy, just not for the reasons they're telling us. Whether it's from the right or the left, I contest that in the most important issues, they broadly speaking agree. How are big tech going to be affected? How's the military-industrial complex going to be affected? How would the pandemic be handled differently? But that's just the question that I want to leave you with. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think in the chat. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at either of these and join us on Rumble every day. All of our videos are up there. In-depth interviews with Tulsi Gabbard, Jeffrey Sachs, Jordan Peterson, even Eckhart Tolle when you need some spirituality on these subjects that matter, that will change your world meaningfully. Stay free.